Welcome to Joy News Desk with me, Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson. This hour, President Mahama says he is committed to the creation of a presidential high-level task force to work with leaders across Africa and the world to help design a new global health governance system that fits today's world.
And what are the new commitments? Today, I'm pleased to announce two significant commitments. The first is the presidential high-level task force.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization raises alarm over a projected 40% drop in global health aid this year. We'll hear from the Director General as he proposes a 50% tax on products like tobacco, alcohol, and sugary drinks to bridge the financing gap.
The most severe disruptions to health systems since the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Also this morning, Shatawali reacts furiously after Yoko names him a person of interest in transnational organized crime after a 2019 Lamborghini seized from his Trasacco home is linked to a $4.7 million US fraud case.
Because as you can't say, baby, people is standing, it shall be disgrace to my brand. You understand me? And if anything, say me, I for take the car.
An energy ministry to facilitate dialogue between GRTCC, GPRTU, and the transport ministry over transport fare hike.
That meeting. So once we are back, definitely there will be an engagement to ensure that find an amicable resolution to this matter.
This as well, and also our climate-focused series. Stay with us. We'll be back with details. And let's start from health. This morning, President Mahama says he's committed to the creation of a presidential high-level task force to work with leaders across Africa and the world to help design a new global health governance system that fits today's world. Speaking at the Africa Health Sovereignty Summit, which he led, he also announced a new African program called the Sustain Initiative, which will make sure countries spend money on the most important health needs. At the same event, the World Health Organization raised alarm over a projected 40% drop in global health aid this year, with the Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, proposing a 50% tax on products like tobacco, alcohol, and sugary drinks to bridge Africa's health financing gap. A former Nigerian President, Olusegun Obasanjo, also called for the creation of an Africa Health Fund modeled after the Peace Fund to strengthen the continent's health financing. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Lagaba has more in this report.
Global health has seen major progress, but these achievements are now at risk due to global political changes, funding cuts, and new health threats. According to organizers of the Africa Sovereignty Health Summit, the current health system is outdated and needs urgent reform. Countries must take more responsibility and global governance must improve. This African-led gathering, GSA, aims to unite global partners to address these challenges and drive change. In his speech, Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, raised alarm over a projected 40% drop in global health aid this year. He proposed a 50% tax on products like tobacco, alcohol, and sugary drinks to bridge the financing gap.
As you all know, sudden and steep cuts to aid are now causing the most severe disruptions to health systems since the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to WHO's latest analysis, health aid is projected to decline by up to 40% this year compared to just 2 years ago. One practical solution is health taxes. A 50% price increase on harmful products like tobacco, alcohol, and sugary drinks could generate an additional $3.7 trillion globally within 5 years, and save millions of lives.
President Mahama, who is the convener of the summit, unveiled the creation of a presidential high-level task force. This team will collaborate with leaders across Africa and around the world to design a new global health governance system, one that fits the realities of today.
We must therefore urge our ministers of finance to treat health as a capital investment, to encourage sovereign wealth funds to allocate resources to biotech, to diagnostics, and resilient infrastructure. And what are the new commitments? Today I'm pleased to announce two significant commitments. The first is the Presidential High-Level Task Force on Global Health Governance. This will be a convening platform to engage global and continental partners to redesign the health governance systems for the world we live in now, not the world of yesterday. The second will be the launch of the Sustain Initiative, and this means scaling up sovereign transitions and institutional networks. This is a bold African-led platform that will align our national budgets with our health priorities, will mobilize sovereign, diaspora, and philanthropic capital into our health systems. It will foster cross-border learning, innovation, and accountability.
Former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has been making a strong push for Africa to embrace traditional medicine. He has also been calling for the establishment of a health fund for Africa, like the Peace Fund. Former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown has also been recommending a hike in taxes on products like tobacco to bridge the health financing gap in Africa.
But as you know as well, there are taxes locally. On tobaccos, we tax tobacco at 80% in the United Kingdom. Alcohol, we tax at 70%, as well as taxes on sugary beverages, with the dual benefit of raising revenue while curbing use of products harmful to health and costly for health budgets. So you who are assembled in Accra can be the leaders of this transformation.
Well, Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Lagaba joins me on the line with more on this. Maxwell, could you break down really what this task force is supposed to do? Exactly what work will they do? Maxwell, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. I'm asking what this task force is supposed to do.
Well, so this conference is basically to redesign the global health governance system, to give Africa and Africans the opportunity to own their own destiny when it comes to global health issues. Essentially, what it did was to bring together top players from Africa within the health space, to organize Ghana. Here we also have the former Mauritius president, we also have the former Nigerian president, which is another top dignitaries who were present at this event. Now, President Mahama, in his speech, actually acknowledged that indeed we have made great progress when it comes to health issues. He talked about the progress that we've made in terms of HIV/AIDS and how antiretroviral drugs are helping, to boost the health of persons who have, HIV/AIDS. He talked about how global vaccines are helping, children develop more healthier lifestyles. He talked about a reduction in child mortality and maternal mortality and many others. But the organizers say that in spite of all these progress that we've made, global geopolitical shifts are some way, somehow affecting and militating against the progress that we are supposed to make, often excluding Africa from the conversation. So this summit was supposed to bring all the top players within Africa, together to have a conversation about how Africa and Africans can own their own destiny, can chart their own path when it comes to global health issues. And indeed, one of the main outcomes of this conference, in terms of the communique at the end of many hours of deliberations, was the formation of the high-level presidential task force on global health governance. So this high-level presidential task force is supposed to redesign a new global health, governance system that would incorporate the needs of Africa, that would consider the needs of Africa, as well on the world stage. Also, President Mahama also used the opportunity to launch the Sustain, initiative project, and the Sustain initiative project is supposed to help African countries properly align their budgets, with their health priorities. So it was out of this conversation that the WHO director, it was within the theme, of this conversation that the WHO director, Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, made that suggestion to African countries that indeed there is a health financing gap and that it is important for us to bridge that gap. How do we bridge that gap, especially in the face of US aid cuts, in the face of the withdrawal of US aid from Africa and many funding cuts and many others? He proposed, a 50% tax on harmful products such as sugary drinks, tobacco, and then alcohol. He says we can raise a lot of money. African countries can raise a lot of money by just, putting a tax, 50% tax on some of these products. Former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, also made a proposition in terms of how we can bridge this funding gap. And he talked about how African countries can establish the health fund, modeled just in line as the peace fund, as a way to bridge the health financing gap in Africa. But the main thing that came out of this conversation and as part of the communique that was put out after the summit was the President Mahama led the formation of the Presidential High Task Force on Global Health Governance, and this group is expected to redesign the global health governance system, incorporating the needs of Africa.
Before you go off, how did the stakeholders present receive these suggestions, especially the 50% tax on tobacco and other sugary products, as well as a $100 bill on international flights coming into Africa?
Well, these were the proposals, made. You can call them suggestions made by the World Health Organization Director General and the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo. Some of the people who I had interactions with on these propositions actually think that, yes, indeed, it is the way to go if we have to bridge, the health financing gap. You remember that in the face of the withdrawal of U.S. aid, from African countries, especially President Mahama tasked the finance minister to come up with innovative ways by which we could bridge, the financing gap. It's not just Ghana that is looking at ways to bridge that health financing gap. Many other African countries are also looking at innovative means, to do that. So for the participants at the program, they think that these propositions and these suggestions, by the former Nigerian president and the World Health Organization are, a call in the right direction. They think that this will help us really, to bridge, the health financing, gap, especially in Africa.
Thank you very much, Maxwell, for that update. Maxwell Lagaba is our presidential affairs correspondent who was at that summit yesterday. Well, joining us too is Vice Chair of the Health Committee, Sebastian Sandari. Dr. Sebastian Sandari, we're grateful for your time on our desk. Really honored, but let me start with your reaction to the WHO's warning that a 40% drop in global health aid. How exposed is Ghana if this projection becomes a reality?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. This Africa Health Sovereignty Summit has come at the right time. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's long overdue. But I say it has come at the right time because of the global health challenges and most of the threat of cut in funding to Africa. You realize that donors like Global Fund, USA, Gavi, and the rest are cutting the aid that they used to give us. And Africa has also learned from the pandemics, talk about Ebola, talk about the recent COVID-19 and the way resource flow, especially vaccines flow to Africa, were handled. So these are lessons for Africa to know that, look, we cannot leave our health in the hands of donors. So if we look at this summit, it's clearly looking at how African countries coming together as one would mobilize domestic resources for health. And I'm excited with the statement made by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that, look, African countries or African leaders should consider healthcare as vital capital investment. Hello?
So I'm with you.
Right. So African leaders should consider healthcare as an investment and not a cost or expenditure, meaning that leaders in Africa must really redefine the way, budgetary allocations are made when it comes to health. And we in Ghana, we can say we are making progress, but we are still below the Abuja declaration of 15% of total budget to healthcare, meaning we have a lot to do. And I think that is why this summit has come, and we all believe that African leaders will take up the task, mobilize domestic resources, and we have the capacity to do that if we really prioritize healthcare and reduce expenditure. We can do it.
Let's talk about the 50% tax on tobacco, alcohol, and sugary drinks proposed by the WHO. Would your committee support such a move? Really, even looking at our circumstances as a nation, where the government is even running away from introducing new taxes, with this suggestion, would your committee support such a move?
I believe at the end of this summit, the issues will be subjected, for stakeholders discussion, and definitely it's an issue that as a health committee we can look at. But I believe even before this summit, Ghana, if we look at our taxes, it might not be up to 50%, but we are doing something in that direction. I think we have passed some legislation on that. I mean, these are what you call sin tax, where some taxes are put on them. One, because of the health benefits, because if people are not able to afford these commodities, alcohol, tobacco, and whatnot, you are improving the health of the people. And it's also a disincentive for people, to invest in that. So maybe it's a 50% that will be subject to discussion, and whatever agreement that is made. But I believe that considering taxes on these dangerous substances is something that, as a country, we've looked at already.
Well, the issue about revenue, when the revenue hits the coffers, how it is engineered into health activities or even healthcare. How would your committee suggest that revenues coming in inflows from this initiative that the president is proposing will be, managed properly such that it will go to the activities that the monies are needed for and not elsewhere?
Rightly so, and that is the call we all support, because once His Excellency and these top high-level leaders are talking about, what it means is that the revenue that comes from these taxes, must be prioritized for healthcare delivery, because that is the subject of discussion. That is why this decision is made. So we all believe that, look, taxes that come to support healthcare and revenues that come in the name of healthcare should go to support our healthcare delivery and not maybe diverted to other sectors.
Right, just before I let you off, also what we want to understand is that the president is proposing this, tax force, including heads of other African countries as well as globally. How would you support this? What would be your own suggestions to this initiative that he's proposing as a committee?
Yeah, rightly put. We all know that, look, it all starts with the political will, or you call it leadership. If we would have resources managed very well for healthcare, it has to start with the kind of leadership that we have. So if His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and other leaders are proposing a kind of high-level task force that will look into all this and ensure that we prioritize health and mobilize, domestic resources for healthcare financing, that is a very good decision, and we all work to support that.
Right. I'm so grateful for your time, Dr. Sandari. He's a Vice Chair of the Health Committee in Parliament, joining us, sharing his views on this health initiative by President John Dramani Mahama and other African stakeholders. Well, moving on, dancehall artist Shatawali is lashing out at the Economic and Organized Crime Office after being named a person of interest in a major transnational fraud investigation. His reaction comes after a 2019 Lamborghini Urus was seized from his Tresako residence with Yoko, which have now linked it to a $44.7 million US-based fraud scheme. The vehicle, according to U.S. authorities, was bought with proceeds from financial crimes committed by Nana Kwabena Amoah, a Ghanaian jailed in the U.S. Yoko says the search was lawful and peaceful. A former officer of Ghana's National Signals Bureau is also under investigation. Both are expected to be invited by Yoko in the coming days. The U.S. is requesting Ghana's assistance in returning the car as part of efforts to recover the $4.7 million in stolen funds. And that statement from Yoko indicates that the vehicle is linked to financial crimes committed by Nana Kwabena Amoah that we've already indicated. The Ghanaian currently serving an 86-month sentence in the U.S. for multiple offenses. And according to Yoko, the operation was peaceful. He says Shatawali, concerned about his public image, requested that the seizure be kept discreet and was allowed to voluntarily surrender the vehicle, which is now in Yoko custody. The FBI and U.S. Justice Department plan to submit a formal mutual legal assistance request to Ghana for the vehicle's return as part of efforts to recover over $4.7 million in stolen funds. Shatawali and a former senior officer of the National Signals Bureau have been named persons of interest and are expected to be invited by Yoko for questioning. Now, a final report may be shared with U.S. authorities as part of Ghana's ongoing cooperation in fighting transnational crime. That statement from Yoko. Well, this is how Shatawali, whose birth name is Charles Ni Ama, reacted to Yoko's investigation.
The car, be Edu Mwainka. Approve my papers. What be you want to take the car go office? No, I won't understand. Like, we say now we have to take, Ghana, when they have power, Charlie, if they talk to you like you be toilet. No, but we have to take the car to the nurse. The instruction that we have been given that we have to come and take the car. And I said, Chairman, this be Shatawali. I no be criminal. What investigation way they do one way they can't spoil my beautiful collection where I get for us. Sometimes I decide to give motivation to do more music for the fans. Like what? And these were my statements. And I was like, no, we have to take the car to the. I said, no, to take the car there, you go hard, because I'm just being respectful, but to take the car for here, because as you posted park for the gates, but that day somebody work for the estate. If the security for Chosako, we save me. Nobody even take video around. It was just my camera that was working. So my camera, when they face the gate, I will let my security team get the surveillance of everything. So I did it. When I watched it, I said, sorry, but this man wanted to talk. So I can't see my manager was. So he said they come. So he rolled in glass. So I said he talked to somebody for phone top. He talked to somebody. Where is it? Shatter. So we have to, take the car to the station because it's, it's under investigation. I said, Charlie, the National Bureau myself, the money said the cost, but man, I don't even hear, Charlie. But what kind of pressure be this? But man, I feel bad. But you see, Shatawali, here they talk May, June, July, August, the Trinity. Me had to wait for 3. God the Father, God the Son. But man, you see my symbol of hope. That is what is going to save all of us in this life. Whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, I tell you, you for believe in God. Because the symbol of hope, it be God in directions. I won't come and sit here and lie to people for anything. I don't go get anything. What be car? Same way man go can sit on live and government where they can power. They catch plenty people. Shatawali be the only artist where they put them an eye on. What about other artists? You are checking their cars? But let's continue. So I tell them, this car, I don't go feel make people move from here. Because as you come say, baby, people is standing, it shall be disgrace to my brand. You understand me? And if anything say, me self I go take the car come. I don't go lie you. Me self I go take the car come. We say they make we sign and I taking the show, say tomorrow 10 o'clock we'll take the car come. I say, yeah, fine, cool. That one, at least you give me some respect, so I respect that. God bless you.
Charles Niyama, they're reacting to Yoko's, investigation, and they definitely will be following up to get updates on that. That was Shatawali there. Well, moving on, the Energy Ministry says it will facilitate dialogue between the GRTCC, the GPRTU, and the Transport Ministry amid tensions over a proposed 20% fare increase. The GRTCC announced the hike, citing rising cost of operations, a new fuel levy, and poor roads. But the GPRTU, which was not consulted, has rejected it and urged members not to comply. We will hear from the GRTCC shortly, but here's a report on the confusion over Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council and GPRTU.
Public transport fares are expected to go up by 20% this Friday. But the usual consensus behind such decision has broken down. The Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council says the increment is necessary due to 3 main factors: rising spare parts prices, poor road conditions, and an 8% jump in fuel prices following the introduction of a 1 cedi per litre fuel levy. But this time, the announcement came without the endorsement of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. The GPRTU says it was not consulted and is describing the move as a major departure from procedure. Stephen Amoa is the deputy PRO of the GPRTU.
In fact, when we saw this communique, we were a bit surprised because we have no idea about this very increment. Our records will prove to us that this has never happened, that only GRTCC will come out with a communique for increasing transport fares. When we saw this communique, we were a bit surprised, for GRTCC coming up with this communique.
The union is urging its members to hold off on implementing the new fares until further talks are held with the Transport Ministry and the GTRCC.
By tomorrow, the leadership of GPRTU is meeting the Transport Ministry to talk about this, to find out from them whether the GRTCC consulted them or there has been an engagement between the GRTCC and the Transport Ministry. If not, then I believe the Transport Ministry has to call a meeting to invite the GRTCC. Then we talk about it before the Friday. Else, it's going to create a lot of confusion.
Meanwhile, the GTRCC is not backing down. Officials say they feel betrayed by the GPRTU, accusing them of holding separate talks with the Transport Ministry over the fuel levy and failing to report back. Alhaji Tanko is the acting national chairman of the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council.
And we are trying to meet the minister or something like that. We didn't get him to discuss. Nobody, even when the thing comes, nobody consults us. Oh, this is what is going to come. Government has made his mind to do this. Nobody tells us.
The council insists it represents a wider group of transport associations beyond the GPRTU and is pushing ahead with a fare hike, citing the urgent need to offset the rising cost of operation.
The transport body is not for one man. It's not for one association. Because you see, you can get this OA. They are not part of GPRTU. So not the only GPRTUs in the country.
But parts of the argument are now being challenged. President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Joseph Obeng, says spare part prices have dropped slightly in response to cedi gains.
Goods have responded positively to the stability of the local currency. You see, we've told you several times that we also have our own challenges, even though we are transferring some of the gains so far gotten to the consuming public.
With Friday's deadline approaching, uncertainty lingers over which fare commuters will be charged and who holds the final say.
Well, let's now hear from Energy Ministry spokesperson Richmond Roxon, who says government is intervening.
Like I said, if you take all the indicators obviously point to a positive side. And if there's anybody who should be crying for any price review, it should be the people of Ghana who should be complaining that looking at all the indicators, prices should rather come down. If you look at the example they gave, that one of the justifications is the 1 Ghana cedi increase. If you look at where we were in January, which we were buying for about 17 Ghana cedis per litre, and what we currently experience at a pump, which is an average of 12, 13 cedis, depending on where you buy from, there's a reduction of about 4 Ghana cedis. And if you're buying, assuming you're buying 70 litres of fuel in January, which was about 1,000, 3,004, as of now, you're doing about 900 Ghana cedis, even with the 1 cedi introduction. And that will be a saving of about 400 Ghana cedis. With this, how can there be a justification that the 1 cedi is the cost of an increase of not 1%, not 2%, not 5%, but 20%? That cannot be justifiable in any way.
So as a ministry, we know we've heard from the Transport Ministry that they will be engaging the drivers' union just to get their thoughts on why exactly they're doing this. But because you've been mentioned in this statement as one of the reasons why they're going ahead with this increment, will you be playing a mediation role?
What we'll do is that we'll engage as a ministry. The Honorable Minister George Napo is currently in END. We've been in Tamale trying to resolve the NEDCO PRA and the rest of Tamale issues. From morning, we've been engaging various stakeholders. We just left END and to another meeting. So once we are back, definitely there will be an engagement to ensure that we find an amicable resolution to this matter.
Well, there's a meeting coming up between the GPRTU and the ministry later today. We'll definitely follow up on that. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, says the National Identification Authority's decision to disconnect its access to the ID verification system over a 376 million Ghana cedi debt has had minimal impact. The NIA took action on August 1 after several warnings, citing GRA's failure to respond or commit to repayment. GRA's Deputy Commissioner for Communications and Public Affairs, Florence Asante, said efforts are underway to resolve the issue.
Right now, it is not, to be honest with you, it is not affecting our operations. We are working because the data NIA gives us is the data for everybody that is registered. Some of them are not taxing. So if NIA gives us data of a student who is not in business, it doesn't affect GRA in any way. So right now, we are fine, we are okay, we are trying to cope without it. It is not affecting our operations.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association, Samson Asaki Awingobit, says the development will affect them.
Such a person cannot process anything. except those who had already processed and they were paying and they were yet to pay their duty, they're yet to clear. Even if that should happen, remember, after the NIA registration, the GRA, the previous GRA Commissioner General, issued a statement and said that we are all going to use NIA numbers as our TIN. You remember?
Yes.
So something that we used to call a TIN from the Registrar General, that if you want to register a company as a new company, you have to, first of all, you have to generate the TIN number from GRA before you can proceed to register the company at the Registrar General. TIN numbers were put away, and we're all using what we call it, the NIA number. So
Right.
what it means that anybody that is using NIA as your TIN will definitely have an issue. Even if you go to your bank, you cannot verify, because that is the challenge. Because the verification was initiated between GRA and the NIA. And you remember, at the point, NIA also issued a statement that if you go to anywhere that you want to do any work, and they ask you, give my ID card for you to do it for the company, you should not agree. All what you should do is to give the NIA number, so that they will use the NIA number to identify you. You remember that directive that came from NIA. So they are doing all these things to also be on revenue, so that internal generated revenue, so they can also take care of their operations and their staff. So I think that ideally, I'm sad. I think that it will be fit, if this will continue this way, it will be fit the status of the, the paperless relevance that we are having. The paperless is to reduce the cost, to reduce people going to physically to verify. So with the NIA number, you can hit the system and then you can verify. And the point here is, why will GRA owe them up that quantum, and GRA is not paying?
Minister for Education, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, says the West Africa Examination Council will receive some 69 million cedis by Friday to clear some outstanding debt owed to them. The release of the fund aims at facilitating the smooth organization of the WAEC examination for final year students in the second cycle institutions. Haruna Idrisu urged candidates not to be intimidated by any external examination, but consider it as part of stages in education. Maxwell Kudako has more in the following report.
The release of the fund aims at facilitating the smooth organization of this year's West Africa Examination Council examination for final year students in the second cycle institutions in Ghana. Haruna Idrisu urged the senior high school candidates not to be intimidated by any external examination, but consider it as part of the stages in education. Speaking at an oversight engagement between the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education and all agencies under the Ministry of Education in Koforidua, Mr. Haruna Idrisu indicated that government is currently investigating a worrying trend of mobile phone-aided examination malpractices in the country. The Minister of Education added, government will deal decisively with any student, teacher, or administrator found culpable of this malpractice.
Listen, WAEC is not struggling, because I can place a call to the administrator of the GET Fund and say that make available to WAEC some amount of money to ensure that WASI is conducted in a manner free from challenges of resources. Only yesterday, WAEC drew my attention to a deficit of 69 million Ghana cedis. By Friday, I'm optimistic that they should get that release, and all is set for the conduct of the West Africa WASI examination.
With carbon emissions from transport continuing to harm both our environment and our health, the shift to sustainable mobility is no longer optional. It's essential. In today's edition of our Climate Focus series, we spotlight James Kumbeni, a resident of Bolgatanga in the Upper East region, who is using cycling not just as a mode of transport, but as a powerful advocacy tool for clean, renewable energy and green mobility.
According to the Back to Blue initiative, Ghana generates over 1.1 million metric tons of plastic waste every year, yet less than 10% is recycled. The rest clogs drains, fuels floods, and pollutes rivers and oceans, threatening both lives and ecosystems. But in a small community in Takrade, a childhood tragedy sparked a powerful response, one that now sits at the intersection of waste management, community empowerment, and climate resilience.
When we were kids, we had a pet called Mamadou, a sheep.
that we all played with it. It was a beloved family pet. In those days, Ghana was on the World Food Program, so they used to give us cheese, and the packaging was plastic. But in those days, we just, after we take off the sheet, the cheese, we throw the plastic away. And Mamadou, our sheep, was eating the plastics and was just growing big and big. But we thought it was a very beautiful big animal that we can climb on and play with and all that. One day we came from school. Mamadou was dead or had died. Our large sheep actually was killed by plastics. This had an indelible imprint in my subconsciousness. And so I became very negative towards plastics.
Moved by the loss but driven by purpose, Hilda Ada, alongside her partner, co-founded the Asase Foundation. Through their Cachet plant in Katamanso, Ajekojo and Weja, they are collecting, sorting and transforming plastic waste into something entirely new. With one goal, keep plastic out of water bodies and protect across wet.
So with the plastic lumber, we currently have the capacity to produce lumber that can be used to manufacture about 4,000 dual dexes for schools. With that, I think gradually we can help to provide the plastic lumber needs for our schools. Now, the beauty of this is that we are replacing as much of the wood or the trees that will be cut down and used for school furniture in schools. So first of all, either those trees will be left in the forest for other ecological needs, or they can be used for other furniture that we can't use plastic lumber for.
Deforestation, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, strips Ghana of its forest cover by 2% each year, releasing carbon, raising local temperatures, and worsening floods. By turning waste into wood alternative lumber, Asase is keeping thousands of trees standing and cutting emissions.
We are also helping to reduce the amount of trees that will be cut down into furniture. So that is another mitigation channel because of due to our operation. So these are part of the contributions that Asase is bringing to our community to help save our planet.
Colbert Ponia, manager of the Weja plant, explains how plastic waste is sorted, shredded, melted and molded into durable plastic lumber. It's a clean circular model that adds value to what would have been pollution.
The material after received at the warehouse is being labeled according to the customers to make sure we are able to trace where the material is coming from and then where it ends at our processing plants. At the LD, that's where we do the reprocessing of the material. That's the LD. At the LD section, we have various mechanical processes that we have to pass the plastic through. The first stage is the pre-washing. The pre-washing is to ensure that all particles that are not good for our machines are removed, such as the gravels and then particles of sand that will have impact on our crusher. After the pre-washing, the material is taken to the sorting stage where we remove all non-recyclables such as polythene bags and other materials that we can't recycle, such as clothes. That comes with the material. So after the sorting stage, that's where we do the crushing. At the crushing stage, we ensure that the material is shredded to particles that we can wash efficiently. After the shredding, the material is passed through 2 washing stages to ensure it is clean for onwards processing.
Assase's impact goes beyond the environment. At the heart of this innovation are people, especially young women and school dropouts who are trained, empowered, and employed.
At first, I complete JHS. When I got married, I'm at home, not doing anything. So I came here, and now I am an operator. They have trained me to become an operator. So I can now operate the squeezer machine.
We also need to build the consciousness of the communities around us, or have a nationwide segregation and collection, education and awareness among the populace. Because for recycling operations such as our own, we depend on plastic waste material, and they must come uncontaminated or with less contamination. That is the only viable way we can have a sustainable operations such as our own. When you finish drinking, you just hang a bag from a previously used bag. So when the lot is finished, you just hang it by your doorsteps or anywhere visible, and then you put in the waste plastic. So I call on schools, institutions, residences to segregate their waste.
What began with the death of a sheep has grown into a bold climate solution, saving forests, protecting lives, and empowering communities. By cutting emissions, preserving Ghana's natural resources, and driving a circular economy, the Asase Foundation is showing that climate action starts from the ground up, powered by people and purpose. Esther Nkrumah, NKS report for Joy News.
And that's Asase Foundation, using plastics for furniture and cutting down carbon emissions. We are sorry we couldn't bring you James Kubeni's report on cycling, but definitely will come in subsequent bulletins. You're still watching Joy News Desk with me, Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson. We'll take a break. We'll return with business.
Welcome back to Business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has expressed optimism about the current flexibility of the Ghana cedi against major global currencies, attributing it to the central bank's policy framework. Speaking at the inaugural address of the Bank of Ghana Chair in Finance and Economics in Accra, Dr. Isiama emphasized that the regulator will work to prevent excessive volatility in the currency.
The governor of the Bank of Ghana at the event highlighted the need for financial institutions to align their strategies with the Bank of Ghana's broader.
We are using a managed floating framework, and under managed floats, at least the currency must move, isn't it? It is different from a fixed exchange rate. But there's this interesting phenomenon in Ghana which we really need to work to change. When the currency moves in one direction, everybody moves with it. The moment the cedi gets to 10.7 tomorrow, everybody says then it's going back to 15.0. And I ask why. The exchange rate, we keep saying, is an endogenous variable, particularly under the framework that we are working with. And so the cedi, dollar rate must move on a daily basis. It must move. A colleague gave the example that he was in a queue in South Africa to change some dollars. They were in a queue, and right when he was in the queue, they were told the exchange rate had moved. And that's the beauty of it. But in Ghana, Let the exchange rate move in a day. There's total news all over the country why the cedi has moved. And yet the cedi must move. When the exchange rate is flexible, it protects the economy against shocks. And so must it be. Our preoccupation is to ensure that those movements are not excessive. And that is what we commit to do. We do not target any band. We do not target any fixed level. Our objective is to ensure, and let me emphasize, that we do not have movements that are excessive.
Meanwhile, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, is calling on banks to revise their lending models to provide stronger support for the private sector. His appeal follows the central bank's decision to cut the policy rate by 300 basis points from 28% to 25%, a move aimed at easing credit conditions and stimulating economic growth. Dr. Isiama made a call while speaking at the Chartered Institute of Bankers post-MPC roundtable discussion here in Accra.
The governor of the Bank of Ghana at the event highlighted the need for financial institutions to align their strategies with the Bank of Ghana's broader effort to create a more resilient and inclusive financial system.
Are they prepared to look away from the T-bills? Are they prepared to look away from the high Bank of Ghana instruments and their high interest rates? The era of high interest rates and passive investment by banks in government securities is ending. Banks must now begin to reimagine their business models, refocusing on intermediation, on innovation, and on credit expansion to productive sectors. With inflation decelerating and rates on a downward path, there is a unique opportunity to support private sector growth, to support SMEs, to support agriculture, and above all, to support green financing.
Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the event, Chief Executive of the Chartered Institute of Bankers Ghana, Robert Jatto, reiterated the importance of providing robust support to banks to enable them fully play their role in national development.
In terms of what banks should do, I think the starting point really is developing the necessary competencies in managing risk. And that's very, very important because the business of banking is actually risk management wrapped up in customer centricity and some innovative solutions. And therefore, understanding the risk that banks face within the economic context, within the industry context, will be very, very important. But building capacity and building competencies will be very, very important. In my view, from the Institute's perspective, it will be building character, which is the ethics of bankers and banks, but also the competence, which is the competence, the ability for banks and the skill set that they require to develop to be able to assess those credit risks in a proper manner, and even more importantly, complying with the rules.
The roundtable discussion was under the theme Monetary Policy in Action, how NPC decisions shape Ghana's economy and financial sector.
For business here on Newsdesk, my name is Winston Taki. Mamisi, over to you.
Thank you, Winston, for the business updates. And I don't know whether you've known about the GRA issues with, NIA and all of those things. What do you think is going to happen if the GRA doesn't pay their debts?
I think it can only get better.
All right, then that's it. Yeah. That's all for us today on Joy News Desk. We are here again tomorrow. Do have a great day.